Performance management is very important in human resource management, because based on performance management we know exactly who's the best employees and who's the worst employees. Okay, and we want to know exactly who's the worst employees, not to punish them or not to fire them or something like this. We need to know the bad performers or the bad employees, so that we can enhance their performance by, for example, by training or by developing or by changing their career or by seeing if they have any family problem or any other problems, so that we can solve their problems. And you know that the satisfied employee, okay, will lead to customer satisfaction. That means if the employee is not satisfied, then also the customer will be not satisfied also. So we have to begin from the employee. Okay, so today inshallah we will see first of all the definition of performance management, or as usual we begin by the definitions. So performance management is a system or is a way to rank, okay, the employees based on their work performance. Okay, so if we have a group of employees, we test them, okay, or we make like a survey for them, or we have a system to manage or to measure their performance. And as you know, in any part of the life, okay, the thing that you cannot measure it, you of course you cannot manage it. So the first step in managing your life is to measure your performance and measure your success. If you cannot measure your success, or if you cannot measure your performance, then you are not managing your life well. Okay, the same thing happen in the organizations or in the business. Okay, all the companies try to measure the performance of their employees in order to find the good employees, so that they can get some rewards or some benefits, okay, or some compensations, and the bad employees to develop them or to train them or to enhance their performance. Okay, we have what we call the appraisal systems. The appraisal systems are the same as the performance management system. Appraisal systems contain more information about the employees, like for example their behaviors, their attitudes, their psychological health or psychological or mental health. It's not only based on the work itself, the processes that the employee do in his job, but also it will take in account his mental and his physical health or performance. In some of the organizations, they give their employees some questions, psychological questions or IQ questions, to measure their health, their mental health or mental abilities. So they will be sure that those employees will make a lot of benefits to the organization. In another hand, also some of the companies measure their employees or measure the performance of their employees by see if they have, for example, some drug problems or some bad behavior, and this is also part of the appraisal systems and part of the performance system, because you know that the drugs, most of the time, it will reduce dramatically the performance of the employees. Okay, so what's appraisal? Appraisal is a way of measuring the performance of the employee. We have like what we call it qualitative appraisal system, okay, and quantitative appraisal system. The qualitative appraisal systems are those systems that measure, for example, something like personality and behavior, okay, or job performance, measure something that cannot be quantified without any quantity. So this type of tests give the organizations qualitative information about the employee. But here, in the other hand, we have another type of appraisal systems. And the other one is the quantitative appraisal systems. The quantitative appraisal systems give the company or the organization, give them ranking of the employees, okay, based on quantities, based on something that measured, really measured. Okay, like for example, if we have a group of employees that are working in customer service and we want to test their performance based on the number of customers that they serve already. Okay, so employee number 1 served, for example, 10 customers. Employee number 2 served 8 customers. That means exactly that that employee number 1 did a better job than employee number 2, because they are doing the same thing, okay, while the first one served more number of customers than employee number 2. Okay, even though it depends also on the problems of the employees, it depends on the time that he spends with every customer. Okay, but we can sometimes quantify the performance. Okay, we can quantify the performance if they do the same thing. If the employees did the same job or the same thing, okay, we can quantify their job. We can say sometimes that employee A is better than employee B, okay, in this type of job or in that type of job. So we have to take in mind two types of appraisals, which is the qualitative and quantitative. Okay, these are some of the aspects of the criteria that's measured by the appraisal system or by the performance management system. Like for example, the personality traits. The organizations measure the personality traits, okay, or they can measure the behavior and performance on the job. They can measure also the job objectives. Okay, if the management gave some objectives to the employees, and then they can manage, or they can measure their performance based on their objectives. And this type of management, we call it management by objectives, MBO, management by objectives. And this is a very useful way of management, because it gives the management a good idea about the performance of the employees, because they have some objectives, and if they did not finish their objectives, that means they are not doing well. So performance management definition, okay, the definition of performance management systems: those systems that establish a framework in which performance by human resources can be directed, monitored, motivated, and refined, and that the links in the cycle can be audited. Okay, this is we can use this definition for performance management system. Okay, what is the advantages of performance management systems? As we say that if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So when we measure the performance of the employees, we can manage them better by know exactly who's doing well and who's doing not well. Okay, so here, for example, some of the advantages for performance management system, like for example, being tied closely to the objectives of the organization. That means if you have some objectives in organizations, okay, and you have performance management system, you can make sure that you are achieving your objectives by performance management system. Because if the objectives did not met by the employees, then you need to return them back to the objectives in order for them to complete those objectives to perform well. And also it represents a more holistic view of performance. That means The performance management system gives you a full view, a full picture of the performance of the organization. And I remember in one of the organizations here in Saudi Arabia, okay, they had a performance management system based on the what we call the scorecard, balanced scorecard. This is one of the most famous performance management systems. Okay, and it depends. It was based on 4 criteria, like for example, based on the customer service or customer objectives, financial objectives, training and development objectives, and internal relationship objectives. So these are the 4 criteria that included in balanced scorecard. So here some conceptual foundation of performance management. Performance management relies or depends more on the ability, okay, and motivation. Performance is more than ability and motivation. Okay. Also, in performance management system, the goals and objectives have to be clear and have to be written and documented well in the organization. Okay. A typical PMS contains those 4 stages. Okay. The first stage in performance management system is to define the business role, and defining the business role is by designing the job description and the objectives of department or group. This is the first step in or first stage in PMS system. Okay, next we have to make the plan for performance management system. Okay, we have to plan the performance, and that can be done by making individual objectives. That means we ask each employee about his objectives, or we ask the manager about the objectives of his employees, and also defining the development plans. Each employee in the organization has a development plan, and some organizations make a list for all the employees with the development that they need every year. Okay, at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, they make what we call a development plans, and development plans contains list of the employees with the development needed by each employee. Okay, the third stage is to deliver and monitor. That means this is the execution stage. Okay, we conduct the performance management system and we monitor the process. Of course, all the managers should give all the support needed for the employees. Okay, and also they have to review the process and control it by checking if there is any deviation or any change in the performance management system, so that they can return it back to the plan. Okay, and finally, the performance management system should have some reports, some formal reports that we define it as formal assessment, with the rewards for each employee that has done his job very well. Sometimes they link the performance management system with the pay. That means if you perform well, then you will get pay more than the bad performance. A lot of organizations link the performance management system with the merit increase. If the employee, for example, get 5 out of 5, then he will get the full merit increase, the full percentage of merit increase. Like if it was 8% or 10% or something like this, he will get it. Okay, and the less he did in the performance management system, the less he can get from the merit increase. Okay, is it clear? Okay, good. So these stages are very important in this chapter. You need to understand it well, and it might be in the exam or something like this. Right. We have also another thing, which is the objectives. 2 directions in setting the organization objectives. The first one is what we call it the top bottom. That means the objectives comes from the top level, from the higher level. Here we have the board level, the board of directors level. Board of directors level set their goals, the goals of the organization at all. Okay, and sometimes they put these goals in a very wide range. Like for example, we need to increase the profit by 10%. We need to increase the sales by 15%. We need to reduce the cost by 5%, and so on. Okay, it's a very broad objectives, very wide objectives. It's not specific to one department. Okay, so after that, they give these objectives to the departments or the function in the organization, which is wider than the department, which is more bigger than the department. Like for example, SBU or strategic business unit. If the company has several SBUs, then we can say here that the functional level is the SBU, which is strategic business unit. Or if the company has business sectors, what we call it sectors, okay, then this is a business sector here. The business sector or the strategic business unit take those objectives that came from the board, and then they try to disaggregate it or to make some details in the objectives based on each sector. For example, here as we said before, that the board set the objective for the profit by saying that we need to increase the profit by 10%. If this objective comes to the functional level or to SBU, strategic business unit, then the strategic business unit, okay, try to make several objectives based on only this objective. As an example, if the profit is related to the sales, related to the operation, related to the marketing, and related to finance also. For the operation, we should have a certain objective here, that we need from operation to increase the production in order to achieve the goal of increasing the profit. This is one thing. The other thing is that the marketing. Also, the marketing should increase their activities by making more advertisement, by making more promotions to the customers in order to increase the sales. Okay, and increasing the sale will also increase the profit. Okay, and the accounting department also has another objective by, for example, managing the price of the product and try to find the best price and reduce the cost of the production, and so on. So these functional level will also try to make those objectives and give it to the department level. And the department should also make more detailed objectives. Okay, and give it to each team in the department. And the teams, of course, consists of employees. So at the end, we will have certain objectives to each employee in the organization. Okay, and this is what we call it the top bottom. We begin with the wider range of objectives, and then we reach certain objectives to the employee. Okay, the other direction, which is the bottom up. Sorry, the first one is top down, and this one is bottom up. Bottom up means that we begin by the individual. We ask the individual, we ask the employees, all the employees in the organization, to make their objectives, to write down their objectives. And then we collect all of these objectives for the employees that are working in one department and make working in one team and make what we call the team level objectives. And after that, we collect all teams' objectives and make department level objectives. Okay, and so on. Which one is better? That depends on the organization. Each organization has its own strategies, has its own way of setting the objectives. Sometimes top-down direction is better than the bottom-up, and for some organizations, the opposite. Bottom-up is better than top-down. So it depends on the organization and depends on the strategy and the culture of the organization. Okay. The job description is very important in the performance management, because when we hire employee inside the organization, okay, for sure we hire this employee to a certain job, and this job should have job description. At the end of the year, we can measure the performance of this employee by measuring how much he did from the job description. Okay, so the job description is a very important source of performance management or performance measurement. These are some of the information about what we call it the SMART objective. Okay, what is the SMART objective? SMART objective. SMART means specific, measurable, appropriate, relevant, and time. Okay, so if the objective has these 5 criteria, we can call this objective as SMART objective. If the objective was specific and was measurable, you can measure it. Specific means decided how much you want from this performance or from this activity. For example, if we are talking about the profit, okay, we should say the objective we should say that the profit should be increased by 10% more than last year, okay? Or for example, the profit should increase for 10% during this year. Okay, of course we mean that 10% more than last year. So this is a specific objective. Okay, measurable, yes, you can measure it because it's a profit and the profit has some numbers. So you can measure those numbers. Appropriate and relevant and time. They are all also related to the objective. Okay, so it must be, for example, time. Time means you should decide when you should perform this objective or achieve this objective. Like the example of the profit, we said that the profit should be increased during this year. This is the time. Yeah, like the annual targets. Yes, ma'am. Like the annual target. Okay. What are the role of objectives? It's allowing employee to develop themselves. Okay, and also understanding what they expect from the job. Also, the objectives can make the employees achieving more in their job, because they know exactly what they should do, what their objectives. Sometimes the objectives is inappropriate. We ask the employee, for example, to increase the sales by 50% or 75%. Okay, and this is and he cannot do it. So that by this way we kill the employee, or we try to challenge him in a very bad way because he cannot achieve this goal. And at the end of the year, we will not give him any reward because he did not achieve his objective. Whereas the problem was not from the employee, the problem was from setting the objective itself.